we have live pictures right now of the incoming British Prime Minister. Okay. That's Keir Starmer. That's making his way to Downing Street. He just left the King. So these are live pictures from London at this time.
All right, there are definitely a lot of expectations. Keir Starmer says he's going to rebuild Britain, but it's not going to be an overnight scenario here regarding why, if you look at the reasons the British public voted the way they did, it's more like a landslide victory, and he's just about getting into 10 Downing Street at the moment. So there's a lot of expectations. What apparently even the incoming Prime Minister has said, hey, look, he doesn't have the magic wand. It'll take a lot of effort, to get things done the right way. We've had 14 years of Conservative rule and several changes of Prime Minister, the premiership, as you will. And the people just want a change at this rate. So his wife and Keir Starmer just about entering the building there. Just leaving King Charles III not too long ago, and we're just about seeing aerial footage of him arriving at 10 Downing Street. And of course, shortly he will be making a speech heralding his emergence as Prime Minister.
Yeah, speaking of speeches, I still... looking back at what Rishi Sunak's speech was like, it was a very wonderful speech with his wife in the background, and I really enjoyed the fact that it was very, very refined speech. He spoke highly of Keir Starmer and expectations regarding that, and thanked all the supporters for his, what was his short time.
And also apologized.
Yeah, indeed. He took responsibility, which was significant.
Yeah, it is significant. I wasn't actually expecting that. It shows the spirit of sportsmanship, despite the fact that, yes, it's politics, but at the end of the day, the people had to decide who they want to lead them. So they have the suffrage to do that, and that's exactly what we're looking at here.
I think it's also a model example that politics doesn't always have to be dirty or use certain language or do or die, precisely. Like we have very familiar territory.
Yeah, so, all right, to a large extent, lots of expectations. And if we're to take a cue from what's happening in our parts of the world as well, a new government just came in, despite the fact that, look, there's mounting problems. And we have just 1 year of this government, and it's not going to happen overnight, all those changes that people expect. It will take a little time, but if there's consistency on the part of the government to actualize pro-people policies, to a large extent, it's what people see that will, actually generate that trust in government, as it were. So a bunch of people and well-wishers at 10 Downing Street holding the Union Jack flags in anticipation of the arrival of Keir Starmer to give a speech. And of course, on the other side, we can see a bevy of, that's the usual tradition of reporters and mass media, just waiting to get the first few words from him, to instill some kind of confidence in the people, despite, or rather the ones they gave him for his emergence. And a lot of expectations. They've been going through a lot of rigmarole, if I may use that word, for the past 14 years. And, remember the Boris Johnson saga? Interestingly, Rishi Sunak was part of those who instigated his exit prematurely.
One thing I've enjoyed during all these transitions that we've seen over time is that lectern that has never left its place right there. And it's always different people but I feel like it's seen so much. It's experienced the speeches. 10 Downing Street is just awesome. And of course the expectation is high. Like you said, the press is right in front of 10 Downing Street waiting for this new Prime Minister to address us, and we saw a lot of excitement during his speech So I would say that the expectation is high, and I think that there might be some grace given to him.
Yeah.
Since it's clearly not easy to assume
Yeah.
this role with
Indeed.
the high expectations and the challenges, but it was a really
Clean.
a clean transition.
But if you look, Cynthia, maybe it's high time people actually pay attention to public opinion polls, as it were, when it comes to political issues like this, elections and stuff like that. And before now, there were indications that the outgoing prime minister was like on thin ice, as his future was already predicted even before these elections. And you can't help but think that quite a lot of things that happened, people just felt a little bit of disappointment, not only him, but the party itself. Perhaps that has not delivered what most people would have liked. And of course, the reality was the local council elections they had earlier, like sweeping the rug off the feet of the outgoing prime minister. And if he didn't have that much confidence in the electorate, that was probably why he called for snap elections. Why wait till the actual, and let's just get it done with. And of course, the result is what we're currently looking at.
I agree. Why wait for so long if people are unsatisfied with this situation of things? Because in the end, that is you're still representing the people. You should be giving them what they're seeking. And I would say we should definitely take a cue. Why not start from here?
Should. But I think where we should also take a cue from as a country is the consistency in the electoral process. It took just barely a day or two before the voting, and of course we already knew voting, the counting, the balloting and everything, it was concise, it was like clockwork, everything happened, and by this morning we knew exactly what was going to happen. And there's consistency in that. We don't have ballot snatching, and there may be a few logistic, but not in the overall that will affect to a large extent what we have in this part of the world. But that consistency and that transparency, in the electoral process, should be emulated by all to a large extent. And of course, despite over there on the other side of the Atlantic in the U.S., despite agitations and complaints about electoral rigging, and of course all the transparent things were done, we found that Mr. Trump's case didn't actually hold water in the United States.
Absolutely.
Regarding his elections and his claims over electoral ballot rigging. But that's not the case here. So a lot of, what's that word? The uneasy road lies ahead those who wear the...
lies the head that wears the crown.
Wears the crown. So
no crown in this case.
Yes.
And, or responsibility. But we do still have our guest with us in studio. That's Chairman Himon and Constitutional Rights Committee, African Bar Association, Sonny Ekwousi. Even though this isn't what you came to discuss, it's unfolding.
Yes, I'm enjoying what's happening in the UK,
Any examples that you think that we could learn from what's going on? Or
I mean, democracy, the way it should be, respect for people, following their principles and all that. And really believing. You can see the way the outgoing Prime Minister took responsibility for some failures. Look, I'm sorry for what has happened. I hope that this is how it ought to be. We should play politics like this. We should stick to principles. We should, allow, because at the end of the day, it's the people, wait for the people that matters. He's not going to go to court and just say, look. For one frivolous reason, he accepted defeat, and then life moves on. That's what we are saying. It should also happen everywhere in Africa. Look at what's happening in Kenya. It's not good for Africa. We should we should move on. But at the end of the day, it's our humanity that is at stake. In this whole thing, it's not just playing politics to the detriment of the people. Whatever, it's the people wait for the people that is very. I think we have a lot to learn from what transpires in there. So smooth, and there's no, and then
no incident.
That spirit of sportsmanship, as you've already alluded to, is so very smooth, key. Yes, and once we saw that, there's a little bit of history in the making here.
Yes,
landslide victory. He only needed 350 plus in Parliament, and he got just a little over 400.
From one party to the other.
Yes, so
it's a big transition. So now Labour. So There's no.
I was even expecting the likes of Nigel Farage of the other party to make an impact here, despite him being a little more of a spoiler in the whole thing. Put a clog in the hole, despite all his comments and everything. But his showing and his party's showing wasn't too impressive here. And it might also indicate that, hey, look, even your future as a politician in that respect, you don't have that many seats in Parliament. And how would people, align with you and take you as a main front runner when it comes to public discourse, when it comes to issues like this? So, it has implications regarding all of this. But if you were to look at this, what about the British public's, commitment to change? There was no. You could see it, that mood. Okay, we're seeing a motorcade just came in right now, and people are waving their flags. So presently, just in a moment, we will see the occupants of the vehicle. And I just like the simplicity of the convoys themselves.
Absolutely.
2 or 3 cars, we're done. These are some of the issues.
Learn from this.
You don't have to have like 10, 15 SUVs.
200.
And of course, the man of the moment, Keir Starmer, just another short trip from the other building, right at the back, and he's out. Yeah.
There are no postmen flogging people.
Yeah, indeed. Keir Starmer and his wife greeting the crowd of cheering onlookers. Yes, well wishers.
Cursing them.
Yes.
How is this simple?
That's and I just remembered, when they're having their prime minister back and forth in Parliament, and Keir has to, bash Mrs. Sunak, and he will have to reply.
There was no bashing
so
this
the
time.
table has turned now. He's going to receive some criticism from the other end, and that's just governance, at work there. So yeah, straightforward. So yeah. So,
this is really very close to the people around.
Indeed. Keir Starmer acknowledging cheers and greetings from well-wishers, people waving flags, and, they gave him the mandate, so there's a lot of expectation from him as well. Lots of smiles there, and
Pushing them, beating them, waving,
yeah.
happy and all that.
Yeah. And the mere fact that, look, even if you support one party or the other, there's that belief that, hey, look,
it has.
Yes.
There's no.
Even if there's change, there's a mutual.
The outgoing
purpose.
prime minister has accepted defeat and all that, and then the people not going to tribunal.
Well, so it'll be interesting, but I'm sure. To a large extent, the Conservatives still hold majority in terms of the opposition outlook. So I'm sure they're probably going to be keeping them on their toes.
Of course, and in terms of what lies ahead after all this cheering and welcoming, a lot of eyes will be on him when it comes to economic recovery, addressing inflation and cost of living crisis, when it comes to also balancing public spending with fiscal responsibility, stimulating economic growth post-Brexit. Post-pandemic.
That's a very germane issue, and I remember when they even had to. They put the British public in a lot of stress.
Absolutely.
It took like almost 4 votes to even pass it in Parliament. That one itself was wearing thin on the public, and to a large extent,
and all that.
Yes, and even looking at post-Brexit, you tend to ask, people are actually benefiting from it, and we also have the Ireland, the Irish question, the Ireland and Scotland, the soft border thing. Yes, so they're not too in tune with Brexit, and that hasn't been fully addressed regarding the UK's handling of Brexit there. So Keir Starmer, the man of the moment, going to make his speech as Prime Minister.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I have just returned from Buckingham Palace, where I accepted an invitation from His Majesty the King to form the next government of this great nation. I want to thank the outgoing Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. His achievement as the first British Asian Prime Minister of our country, the extra effort that will have required, should not be underestimated by anyone. And we pay tribute to that today. And we also recognise the dedication and hard work he brought to his leadership. But now our country has voted decisively for change, for national renewal, and a return of politics to public service. When the gap between the sacrifices made by people and the service they receive from politicians grows this big, it leads to a weariness in the heart of a nation, a draining away of the hope, the spirit, the belief in a better future, that we need to move forward together. Now, this wound, this lack of trust, can only be healed by actions, not words. I know that. But we can make a start today with the simple acknowledgement that public service is a privilege and that your government should treat every single person in this country with respect. If you voted Labour yesterday, we will carry the responsibility of your trust as we rebuild our country. But whether you voted Labour or not, in fact, especially if you did not, I say to you directly, my government will serve you. Politics can be a force for good. We will show that. We've changed the Labour Party, returned it to service, and that is how we will govern. Country first, party second. Yet, if I'm honest, service is merely a precondition of hope, and it is surely clear to everyone that our country needs a bigger reset, a rediscovery of who we are, because no matter how fierce the storms of history, one of the great strengths of this nation has always been our ability to navigate a way to calmer waters. And yet this depends upon politicians, particularly those who stand for stability and moderation, as I do, recognising when we must change course. For too long now, we've turned a blind eye as millions slid into greater insecurity. Nurses, builders, drivers, carers, people doing the right thing, working harder every day, recognised at moments like this before, yet as soon as the cameras stop rolling, their lives are ignored. I want to say very clearly to those people, not this time. Changing a country is not like flicking a switch. The world is now a more volatile place. This will take a while. But have no doubt that the work of change begins immediately. Have no doubt that we will rebuild Britain with wealth created in every community, our NHS back on its feet facing the future, secure borders, safer streets, everyone treated with dignity and respect at work, the opportunity of clean British power, cutting your energy bills for good. And brick by brick, we will rebuild the infrastructure of opportunity, the world-class schools and colleges, the affordable homes that I know are the ingredients of hope for working people, the security that working class families like mine can build their lives around. Because if I asked you now, whether you believe that Britain will be better for your children. I know too many of you would say no. And so my government will fight every day until you believe again. From now on, you have a government unburdened by doctrine, guided only by the determination to serve your interest, to defy, quietly, those who have written our country off. You have given us a clear mandate, and we will use it to deliver change, to restore service and respect to politics, end the era of noisy performance, tread more lightly on your lives, and unite our country. 4 nations standing together again, facing down, as we have so often in our past, the challenges of an insecure world, committed to a calm and patient rebuilding. So, with respect and humility, I invite you all to join this government of service in the mission of national renewal. Our work is urgent, and we begin it today. Thank you very much.
We've just heard a speech from the new Prime Minister, Starmer of the Labour Party, talking about weariness on the heart of the nation, the need to move forward together. Really needs to be moved by action, not words. He also said politics can be a cause for good. He's calling for people's support and unity. And he also said work of change begins immediately. Cynthia.
I love the opening of his statement where he thanked the outgoing Prime Minister, acknowledging that he was the first British Asian Prime Minister and the extra effort that it required cannot be underestimated. But the country has obviously voted for change, for national renewal and return of politics to public service. And he also emphasized the need to move forward together, the wound and lack of trust that can only be healed by actions and not words. And he made it clear the public service is a privilege and everyone must be treated with respect by the government. He also made mention of whether anyone voted him in or not, that he's saying to them directly that his government will serve them.
A government for all, as it were.
Absolutely.
So, Keir Starmer and his wife just waiting for a photo op there in front of 10 Downing Street. A new dawn, a new era in the UK.